Hey everybody, and welcome to the ComaCast. I'm your co-host Cody, and today we are going to be talking to Clint, one of Matt's friends that he grew up with. It was one of the first people that he actually came out to. So that's going to be an exciting conversation. We're going to be talking with him about allyship, what it means to him, and kind of some of the importance of allyship within the LGBTQ community. But first, of course, if you are listening to this on YouTube, watching us, that is, you can listen to us. Audio versions are available on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify. And of course, if you're listening to us on those, you can also watch us on YouTube, because some things you might want to actually see. You can just search us, the ComaCast, on YouTube, or on our website. You can go. There's lots of links to get to all of our social sites.
Podcasting from the Lone Star State in Southern California, you're listening to the Coma Podcast with Cody and Matt.
Now it's time for a little icebreaker.
So this is slang terms for the gays, for the LGBTQ community. What do you think a breeder is?
Oh, a straight person.
Very good.
Because I've heard you've called me that before.
It's true, I have. Brownie queen.
A bottom?
Very good. A gay man who prefers a passive role in anal intercourse. Bathsheba.
I'm gonna say someone who frequents glory holes.
You're very close. The actual definition: a gay man who frequents gay bathhouses.
Oh, that was close.
Do you know what a bear is?
A bear is a bigger, hairier man.
Yes. Do you know what a twink is?
A very gay man.
No. A slim and young-looking, bodily, hairless man. What an otter is.
An otter. To me,
I'm breathless to hear that.
it sounds like someone who would be a bottom. Because otters always float on their backs in the water, and they're cute as hell doing it. Right? So I just feel like it would be someone laying there and taking.
You're way overthinking that. That would be submissive, by the way. No, an otter is basically a hairy twink.
Coming up next, we're going to be talking with him about allyship, what it means to him, the importance of allyship within the LGBTQ community at large. All of that coming up next.
You guys remember we did kind of a fun interview with him, kind of reacting and talking about what it was like for him when I came out to him and what the experience was like. But we didn't really get to talk to you very much, kind of like your actual views. It was more of like how, as a teenager, you were thrown into this, you know, because you knew I was gay before I did.
Yeah.
So,
and I think at that time, having had zero interaction really with gays or gay community or anything where we grew up, and kind of having to dive into it that way with no experience.
Yeah, it literally came down to sometimes I remember Googling things and learning things and then telling you about it, and you're like, wow, I didn't need to know that. And I'm like, me either, but here we are. We're doing this. Sometimes it was a ride we went on together, and you were a really good passenger, even if a reluctant passenger at times.
Reluctant at times, but then sometimes I fully enjoyed it. I embraced what you were becoming and kind of where our friendship was going, and at times had fun with it around your new friends, let's say.
Yeah, that was an experience. So it was thinking about what it was like. A little bit of history. Clint and I have been friends since we were kids, like literally 14 and 15 years old. And we grew up together. We went to college together. Now that you're also in your 30s, because we're both in our 30s now.
Yeah.
When you think of allyship, like when someone talks to you about it, because you also now live in Canada, Clint has moved away. We have been separated for longer than I ever would have ever thought possible. Now that you're in your 30s, so when people talk about allyship, like what kind of comes to your mind? Like, what do you think what does that mean to you?
Well, how do I put this? So at work, I have an office, and on my office door, it says I am an ally. Right, which my daughter, whenever she sees my office, she goes, "Hey, look, why does it say you're an ally?" And
she's a child.
Yeah, like to me, and in that kind of in what it means at work, and I guess kind of means in life, is just to me, like, you deserve all the same rights that I have, right? And it to me, it doesn't make sense that you wouldn't have those same rights, right? Like, we were talking before this about adoption and how, Trump signed that you couldn't do it, and Biden had to come and undo it. And to me, it just doesn't make sense that you wouldn't, right? Like, you are every bit the person that I am. Like, it's we've kind of talked about what would be a utopia, right? Where, like, you could be gay, I could be straight, and it doesn't matter. Like, a perfect world would be that nobody has to come out because it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It doesn't exist in that.
Right, and the sense of there's a lesser than and a greater than. You know what I mean? And the same thing goes with race and everything else, right?
Right, and I know a lot of people want that, and I'm actually glad you brought that up. So the LGBTQ community makes up like 10% of the world population.
Yeah.
So some of coming out is literally trying to figure out who's in your dating pool.
Yeah.
Because you don't know. Like, people, there's a lot of those old, you and I both grew up with those stereotypes. And then you and I, as I started kind of coming out and learning about myself, I learned that a lot of things about myself, well, that answers a lot of questions,
Well, I think it probably what's great about our generation and probably being gay in that sense is that you have, and you're married now, so that's not maybe so much a problem, but you have apps like Grindr and stuff like that because you don't have to guess. And I can't imagine, 30 years ago, if you were gay and met another man that maybe you had feelings for, but you didn't know, and maybe you were scared to ask, right? Because you could legitimately get your ass kicked, right?
Or murdered.
Or murdered because, you have a whole podcast devoted to that, right?
They appeared on a talk show, and the guy admitted he had a crush on a friend or another guy, and the guy panicked and literally murdered the guy. He invited him over, and he murdered him. Yeah. And it was something that I think one of the sobering moments was when I realized that I was gay, and I came out and I talked to you about it. That was like when I talked to you about it, you specifically, is I think when that chapter really opened, because I felt like I was going to live out loud. Mm-hmm. Because I hid a lot of things from the world, but I never hid them from like my grandparents and you, because and again, Clint and I grew up down the street from each other. So, and I have a small family. So it was just kind of like, the people that were in my immediate orbit, I felt that when I was honest with the 3 to 5 of you, then I was living out loud. Then I didn't care if anybody else knew. So in telling you, it was this realization that the day I told you and started living out loud, I no longer had a bunch of rights that the day before I did. Right. That once I said it out loud, somebody now knew that if I did try to blend in better, that it wouldn't work, that somebody would always know, and there is that fear, because you don't know what somebody's going to do. Clint and I were supposed to be roommates. Well, we ended up being roommates. Yeah. But I realized that we ended up still being roommates. It was fine. But when we were talking about it, when I came out to him, I wasn't going to tell him I wasn't going to tell you for months, because I just wanted to talk to you in person about it. But you were in the middle of planning to move to Orlando to go to school, and we were going to be roommates the next year. And we were super excited because I might be as gay as the day is long, but I'm a total bro when it we're just like very video games and working out. That was our thing at the time, and cars. So I was so excited for this that I wasn't going to have to deal with these jerks that I'd known all year, that I was going to get to do stuff I like to do, and same for you. And I realized I had to tell you, because if you moved in with me and then I said, by the way, I had pushed you into a decision that maybe, what if you didn't want to make that decision?
Again, we never even discussed gay people.
I never would have imagined that, the country boy down the street would be my best friend. And then he's the one that has to figure out, what does gay mean to not just me? Because I remember you had to talk to me about this. And then of course now I'm an adult. Now we can talk about it openly, but now you have kids and they're going to have friends, and there's that complete possibility that your children or their friends or somebody, and you're a leader at work, people could come to you, people could just come out to you. And how do you feel about
I had an associate come out to me that they were trans.
Oh, wow.
And
awesome.
And tell me that they were about to start going through transitioning and everything like that, and I was just like, okay, And then the thing is, immediately I was like, okay, do you want to be referred to differently now? Like, you want to use different pronouns now? Do you have a different name picked out? And
Right, like what?
he at the time, she now, was like, no, not yet. I'll let you know when I'm ready for that. I'm like, okay, cool. Just let me know, and we'll, you know, and honestly,
Yeah.
since she let us know that she changed her name and now she, I have not slipped up once and said he, and I've corrected everyone around me that has said it.
Right. It's not hard. And especially a lot of times once someone starts living who they know they are, the person tends to just be so much happier.
Yeah.
They just this it's like you can breathe. Another thing on allyship is something that I guess is probably more risque is along with just learning that I'm gay and like that I'm going to, date guys and this is what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
You also have to deal with like my actual sexuality. Like the reality that I am an actual sexual being and this happens and there's a whole group and population of people that neither of us understand yet. And what was that like for you? Like, because you've kind of been in that ally role this whole time, it's just kind of shifted.
So
So what was it like learning and trying to keep an open mind as you learn these new things?
I remember it being, and I don't know that maybe because I was 18 when you came out, right? So I maybe didn't process it maybe the way I would have even now. So at the time, it wasn't that it was a joke. Obviously, it wasn't a joke, but like it was just like I'm trying to decide how to put this. It was kind of like, tee hee, he's gay. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Right. So it was one of those things because you remember like the first thing I said to you when you came out to me was like, well, you keep it in your bedroom and I'll keep my stuff in mine, right? Like I
Right.
know in general what's going on in your room. I just didn't think about it because to me, even at that age, though, I didn't care. Like
Yeah.
to me, like
It was,
whatever gets you off, whatever gets me off, great. You know?
and we kind of just high-fived each other on it.
Yeah.
Like, definitely, I think my goal, my hope when I remember telling you, I was like, at best, he's going to be like, yeah, I'm going to be the best wingman ever for you. And then at worst was, okay, well, I never thought you would, like, tell me off, but I thought at worst you might say, well, okay, like, I totally support you, but I don't want to live with you. And kind of, because some guys, straight guys, really think that every gay guy's attracted to them. And
Right, and that's the thing. I never once that I could ever remember thought, oh, what if Matt comes on to me? Like, because it was never even a thought to me.
I wanted to talk about this with you today because we're rolling out season 3 of the Coma Cast.
Congratulations on that, by the way. Congratulations on 100 episodes.
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add? Like, what do you think? Like, so straight people, you and Ashley do a podcast talking about specifically allyship, which is why I want. Yeah, well, it's a dicey subject. It's very careful when you're doing it from a straight perspective you don't. There's a sensitivity issue. There is how you use terminology.
Mm-hmm.
Terminology has evolved from the 60s and 70s and 80s to now. You have multiple generations that are now in play, that are all of legal age and all involved in the community from all different angles and all have very strong feelings on what is right, what is wrong, and what's offensive.
Yes.
So I think your
think,
position on it is very fascinating.
I think so. What's interesting is that there's so many flavors, if you will, to the LGBTQ community, right? It's not just sexuality; it's also gender, plus it's also romanticism and all these different things, right? Like it's not just
And everything's
yeah, and everything's a spectrum, and it's just as far as being an ally, I think it's acknowledging that all of them exist and treating them all equally. If I had to put it simply, like I don't know that I've ever thought about what it's like to be an ally, because to me it's just like, well, yeah, I just treat you as if you were anybody. Like I'm not going to treat you special because you're gay.
There's things you talk about in your podcast, because I've listened to it, that I can tell when y'all are really trying to make sure you're watching what you say, because you want to be educational and supportive without talking over somebody. And at the same time, just stepping in a bucket of shit that you did not mean to step in, because it only takes one, and then you're suddenly getting like hate mail.
Right.
You know,
Well, and yes, and
like things are.
it's yes, you have to be conscious sometimes of what you're saying and how you're saying it.
What would you say to your kids as they get older and their friends start to come out to them? Because it's going to happen.
Well,
you know, there's just more.
and
Not it.
Not with William yet, because he's 5, but with my daughter, she's 8, and we've already explained to her that sometimes, you know, girls love girls and boys love boys, and all that's okay. So I like, to me, I have to treat it as much normal as possible so that it's not weird to them if they see it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So like, it's kind of like they say how like racism is taught. Well, the same thing, you know, if you are anti-gay or whatever, you are taught that, right? Like somebody told you, whether it's a parent or a priest or whatever. So to me, the best thing I can do for them, for my kids, is to teach them that it's okay and it's normal and there's nothing wrong with it. And then to almost drop it from there, right? Because like, if they want to have a whole discussion with me, that's fine. But if it's almost at the same time, I don't want to make a special case of it. I want it to just be like they come across, you know, 2 girls or whatever, and it's just like, okay, you just keep walking, because it's normal, right? Like, it's not, oh my God, look, that's 2 girls that are holding hands. You know, it's just 2 people who love each other passing by. If someone asks, or like, again, if I'm at work, it's a matter of just being kind to everybody. And if someone's trans, learning their proper pronouns and stuff like that, like, just don't be a dick.
Clint, thanks for joining us on the ComaCast. We love having you.
I love being on here. Thanks for letting me come on.
And I love being part of the Auto Riff when you have me on. It's been really fun. I think this is like our childhood dream.
Kind of,
like,
yeah.
This would be this closest I think we're going to get to it in this climate. And with country lines separating us right now. But
Yes.
yeah.
So, hey guys, we want to remind everyone that you can keep in touch with us on all of our social media channels, whether that is Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can do all of that at the ComaCast.
And we definitely love to interact and hear from all of our listeners. All of this is not possible without you guys.